What's up, artists? Today we're going to start a new project. For this project, we're going to learn about a brand new idea, something we haven't talked about at all yet. It's called symmetry. All right, symmetry. Let's learn a little bit more about what symmetry means. So the easiest way to see if something has symmetry or not, if it is a symmetrical thing or not, is to imagine a line, an imaginary line down the middle of an object. If this imaginary line down the middle of the object separates it where both sides look the same, then the object has symmetry. It's a symmetrical object. If you drew a line down the middle of an object and both sides were not the same, then you would say that it's asymmetrical. It does not have symmetry. So this butterfly that we were looking at has symmetry. Both sides of that imaginary line are exactly the same. Things with symmetry can be really simple, like this picture, or they can be much, much more complex, like this picture. Here's what we're going to need to create our symmetrical picture today. You're going to need a piece of paper. You're going to need a pencil. And you're going to need paint. If you don't have paint at home, it's okay. You could do it using crayons. I'll show you how to do that separately. But paint will work the best for this. So if you have paint, use paint for this before you use crayons. I'm going to use watercolor paint, so I have a paintbrush, a watercolor set, and some water. If you have other kind of paint like tempera paint or acrylic paint, this will actually work better, this kind of paint. But since most of us don't have this at home, I'm going to use watercolor for my project. All right, let's get started. All right, guys, so if you are one of my friends that are going to be using crayons, you're going to just fast forward this whole painting part and then pick up, once you see me pick up the crayons, you can start. All right, so my friends that are going to paint, here's what you're going to do. You are going to take your paper, landscape style, like this, and you're going to fold it in half from one corner to the other corner. So fold it in half, and then put a crease in it. All right. Now what we're going to do is open it back up, and it should look like a little tiny book. And on one side of our crease, we are going to paint whatever we want. So you're going to paint anything you want on this side. If you are using watercolor paint, you're going to have to go kind of fast because you don't want your paint to dry on this side of the paper. So you could paint something real. You could paint a picture of something that you like or anything that you can think of. Or you could just do abstract designs. All right, I'm going to do just abstract designs because I want to see what it's going to look like. So what I'm going to do is start painting. If you are using tempera paint or acrylic paint or a thicker kind of paint, you don't have to go as fast because that kind of paint takes much longer to dry. It's just the watercolor paint that dries kind of quick. So you're going to paint your design. I'm going to kind of mix my colors together. And this is important that I really wash my brush out really well in between when I'm doing something like this. So you're going to start painting and doing your designs, but you're going to go really kind of fast because you don't want your colors to blend together. Or, I'm sorry, not blend together. You don't want them to dry. So you want to keep it nice and wet. So I'm mixing my colors together, making this cool kind of design. Like I said, it could be anything you want. It doesn't have to look like an object. It can be totally abstract. And you could just go ahead and keep blending colors together and make it look however you want. Right? Just make sure that it stays wet. Do not let your picture dry. If it dries, it won't work. It won't be symmetrical. It won't end up looking the way we want it to look. So I'm going in and I'm adding all my colors. I'm getting it nice and wet. I'm blending them together. And I'm trying to mix colors next to each other too that I think would go well with each other. So I don't want to put two colors that might not go together because if you mix them together, it might make like a brown color. I want to keep it looking really cool. So I'm mixing these colors. Maybe I put a little yellow. I didn't put any yellow yet. Yellow didn't work that great. All right, we'll go to the next color. And you're just going to keep blending and putting your colors together until you've covered the whole entire piece of paper. Then, after you've colored one side, you are going to take your blank side. You're going to take it and fold it over and just gently push down on it. Don't move it around, just push down on it one time. You can hold it even if you want it to really kind of stay. And then after you press down on all the parts of your paper, you're going to carefully open it back up. And you should have a symmetrical picture. picture that looks exactly the same on both sides. So mine kind of dried a little bit right here. You see how it didn't push over that much on that side, but it's a little bluer over here. That's because this dried a little bit. I didn't really go that fast. So that's why that dried. That's okay. It still looks perfectly symmetrical and really awesome. All right? So you guys who painted, put this off somewhere to dry, and then once all the paint is dry, you could really check it out and see how awesome it looks. All right? So my friends that are going to be using crayons, this is when you guys are going to come in. All right? So my crayon friend. Oh, I'm sorry. If you painted, you guys are done already. You can take your picture, take a picture of it, and put it on Seesaw so I can check it out. You guys who are using crayons, you're just getting started. You're going to take your paper, same thing, landscape style, fold it in half, and instead of painting on both sides, you guys are going to end up drawing on both sides. So what I want you guys to create is you're going to create a butterfly. So you're going to draw a butterfly that's going to be symmetrical. So it should look exactly the same on both sides. So I start by doing those two shapes. A nice long shape for the body and a little circle for the head. And I'm going to add antennas on both sides, the same shape, and then I'm going to add my wings. And my wings should be the same shape, just about on both sides, about the same size. Now listen, it might not be perfect, all right? We're doing the best we can with what we have. So we want it to try to be symmetrical. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. All right? Then you can add some designs. And you want to do the same thing on both sides. So whatever designs you choose to put on yours, I'm going to actually use shapes for mine. So we'll do a couple different shapes. And I'm just making sure that I try to put them in the same spot on both sides. All right? That is how you're going to start yours. So my crayon friends, what you're going to do now is take your crayons and color it in. All right? So let's color it in. And the colors should be the same on both sides. All right, so once you guys are finished, whether you use paint or crayons, you should have a picture that looks pretty symmetrical, that looks the same on both sides of that imaginary line down the middle. This is one of those projects that I'm more focused on the idea that we are learning than the actual picture that we create. So I'd rather you try this a couple times and be creative and see what you make and focus on the idea than worrying too much about what it looks like at the end. All right? So go ahead, guys. Have fun, be creative, and send me a picture when you guys are done.